Welcome, my friends, to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm Deborah Deras, your host. Each week, you'll hear from top experts in the speaking industry who will share their insider secrets. Learn what works and what doesn't by hearing real stories of success and failure. My intention is to be your speaking coach to help you reach your goals faster and easier. I believe you are the messenger for the message. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. This episode is being sponsored by Ignite Your Speaking. Do you want to take your speaking to the next level? Are you interested in getting the information to get clarity on your brand? We have lunch and earn webinars, Facebook live presentations, and spot coaching and resources with your friend, Deborah Deras. And this month we are having a trial monthly membership, only $11. So if you're ready to be a messenger for the message, you can ignite your speaking now by going to www.igniteyourspeaking.com. So welcome back to Be a Paid Speaker Now. I am excited like every week. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Deborah Deras, you're always excited. Yes. And I am always excited because I'm surrounded by powerful, inspirational, and amazing people. And this woman is someone that I have known for decades, not years, decades, at least 1.5 decades.
That's
I've known her. She is a powerful influencer leader in our community, and you are going to be grateful you tuned into this podcast because I have the one and only Miss Cecilia Mota, a passionate women empowerment expert and influential Latina leader. She's an entrepreneur, radio and TV host, and producer who has been serving the nonprofit sector for over 20 years. Sharing her knowledge and bringing women together to collaborate is a big part of Cecilia's life philosophy. She lives by the mantra, when women work together, amazing things happen. Please welcome Cecilia Mota. Welcome. The crowd goes wild.
Gracias, Deborah. Mi sassy Colombiana judía.
In fact, Cecilia, I don't know if you know, but you were my inspiration to start the podcast. Because when I was on your show, I was like, oh, I need to get it together and get my podcast. And seeing you on your show, I was like, wow, I'm going to do it. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I love hearing that. I love it when people come back and said, you know, because of you, this and that, or I got inspired, or I made changes, or I got this job. That's how you know that you are impacting.
Exactly.
When you get those beautiful testimonials. And yes, I know I was pushing hard for you to really start it because we had such a great show. You're just such a great interviewee and have so much experience and such, oh my God. You know what? I want people to actually listen to that. If you don't mind like sharing that, because they need to hear what you share, the amazing knowledge, wisdom, and tools that you shared on that interview that day. I really enjoyed it. And that's when I said, oh, Deborah has to have her own show.
Yes.
And here we are. And here we are.
And that's what happens when women come together. Amazing things happen, right?
And when women support one another, when they're not afraid to really verbalize it. You know, you have to verbalize it. Don't just wish it upon someone, tell them, encourage them, and share tools, because I think that was the other thing I did, and I've done that with other women, is that I do take my time, and when I see something come into my inbox, I forward it. So that's paying it forward, whether it's a job opportunity or some great article or whatever information that I feel that's going to help them advance in their journey.
Exactly. Yes. And I want people to know your journey because I know that it's a very, very interesting one. I'm sure there's a lot of the backstory that I don't even know. But how did you get started in public speaking?
Ooh, I'm trying to think back because let me tell you, I am a reticent speaker. It's not something that it was by choice. First of all, if I go back to my nonprofit years when I started with our family's foundation, the Manny Mota Foundation, I had to get in front of people at least to greet them when we were doing gala dinners or we were doing the golf tournaments. And then I got comfortable because my dad was there with me. So we would do kind of like our own little Mota family skit. But then eventually, as I stepped down from there and I went into more of a private setting in corporate boards or with association boards, that's more intimate. And you're leading in a different way and you're still, leading teams. And again, when I did I think it was my first speech when I stepped as national president of the National Latina Businesswomen Association. And I had to do that speech in Sacramento. And it was actually, the speech was given to me and I deviated a little bit from the speech because I felt at that point, this is 2008, 2009, that I had to be authentic. That was very important for me to connect with the audience and to stick to my truth, to be myself. And let me tell you, Deborah, that was not necessarily well received by the board member that did that. I got scolded. When I got back to the table, I was told with the index finger, stick to the script.
What?
Yes. And I said, whoa, and I'm like, whatever, I had to be myself. And at this point, I'm like, I'm the boss right now. And it was such an experience that it really stuck with me because I don't stick to the script. I never have.
Mm-hmm.
None of my career journey, my professional journey has been conventional. I have a degree in interior design. I'm not doing design, but what I've done is that I've used those skills of design and creativity, and I've taken them and I've translated them into another profession. And I was able to get creative with marketing, which was another skill that I didn't know I had a passion for that. And I parlayed a lot of those talents, those gifts into a new career, which was a nonprofit sector. But I really was like a professional volunteer in the nonprofit space. That was not a paid profession, but it was definitely something I was passionate about. And they said, find the one thing that you would do for free and where your passion is. And definitely is in serving others, whether it was a humanitarian one, with the Manny Mota Foundation, or whether it was discovering my passion for helping to advance other women and Latinos as well. So I was able to really learn by observing. That was the first thing I did. But when I was first asked to really step up to the plate with a group of women called Women Empowering Women in the Inland Empire in California, I did not want to do it, but it was such a beautiful event because I just didn't feel comfortable. And I would say to myself, and I share these things because we all have those stories that we repeat to ourselves. It's all about mindset. Right. And I would tell myself, well, you're a jack of all trades and an expert at nothing. That's what I would, yes. So at that point, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? So I did, and I didn't prepare anything. I got on the mic and everything flowed. And what I talked about at that point was my hair.
You have great hair, my friend.
And I picked the hair story because it was about transformation and about staying true to yourself. Mm-hmm. So the backstory to that is that several years ago, a little over 10 years ago, I lost my home, got divorced, had to end up moving, with family. And I no longer had the same lifestyle. Therefore, I could not afford to be going to the hair salon. I grew up with, blowing, getting my hair blow dried and all that. And then one day it was like, okay, well, that's not in the picture anymore. So I got to do something. So I said, well, let me go natural. And I liked my hair. But the funny thing is my children had never seen me with my hair curly either. So I went to the store that weekend and I bought 6 different products, locked myself in that apartment. My parents, I think, were out of town. So it was just me and my kids. And I said, I'm going to try every single product here to see which one is the one that's going to work and hold this hair down. And that's how my curly hair journey started. So that's why I wanted to share that, because when my father saw me, he said, en español, no me gusta ese pelo.
Oh my gosh.
I kind of like the hair. He was not used to that. So I said, well, this is what's up. I said, this is lo que hay. This is what's up from this point forward, me and my lioness, hair. So when my children, on a little mini vacay, again, 10 years ago in Santa Barbara, they're like, Mom, get in the jacuzzi. I'm like, I am not getting this hair wet. So when I finally agreed to do it, then they saw my curly hair for the first time. They're like, oh my God, Mom, you look like a lioness.
Oh God.
But they were so cute. They were little, 4 and 9 years old. So I had to go, spend the 2 hours blow drying my hair. But after that, I made that decision. And it was about staying true to yourself and working with what you have at the time, with the resources, and embracing my new reality. So that's why, to me, that's a story that came to mind when I did my first, 7-minute public speaking.
And so because one of the things that I always talk about is when you're starting as a speaker, number one, you need the confidence. So you were saying how you can be confident is to be authentic, to be yourself, and stay true to yourself. And then the next thing that I always talk about is the clarity piece. That clarity is cash. Until you know what your expertise is, it's really hard to carve a career as a professional paid speaker. And so one of the things that you said was your niche organically came to you. It's not like you sat down at your desk and you figured it out. You just got out there, got yourself the courage with your lioness hair to get on the microphone, and then it downloaded to you what you were here to do in the world, that you were here to give people the courage to be their authentic selves and empower them.
Exactly, because you don't know how many women, whether they had curly hair or not, that they approached me after that. It was amazing. And it wasn't about the hair. One of them was about the hair, but the other ladies were like, wow, you inspired me with that, to just not be afraid of expressing myself. And I mean, I got in front, it was like 250 women there. So to me, that was a big deal. Of course, I was like trembling at the beginning and still was nervous, but nonetheless, I did it. And I was also thankful. And I think that was part of the reason why I said yes to the opportunity, because I was grateful that it was, and here it goes, the collaboration piece. It was another Latina woman that believed in me and that I could impact women, that referred me to this other Latina woman.
Right.
So she's the one that reached out to me, and I did not want to let down either of these two women. And I'm like, get it together. You can do this. And that's what it was. I said, if others believed in me, then I have to believe in me.
Exactly. And in the beginning of a speaking career, for almost everyone, we're always going to have that imposter syndrome. It's just part of it. There's always going to be that doubt, like, who am I to be on stage talking to them? I mean, I don't know any speaker that hasn't experienced this. So, but it's just knowing if even one person, like your mentor, believes in you or recommends you, that you are meant to do it, and trusting that. And if you feel fear, like everyone does, just flip it over to excitement. Just channel that fear into the passion for your speech, because I've heard you. You're amazing. And you are not just speaking, like delivering speeches, but you're also doing spokesperson work. Can you talk about that, how you got into that and what you do with spokesperson work?
Well, I mean, radio, that was a whole another universe, another opportunity, another door that opened. So, fast forward, National Latina, Manny Mota Foundation, nothing formal, in public speaking. Then Latina Viva came along, to spearhead this organization, which is a career development platform for Latina women. And again, it was another woman. This lady happens to be Maria Hernandez, one of my mentors, and she has been amazing to me. She believed in me. We made that connection through Facebook. Eventually, I had invited her to participate in something with me, and then she invited me to take a look at that opportunity. She needed a leader. And Latina Viva, she's the one that observing my presence on social media, because I wasn't doing radio yet. She said, I need you to take a speaking part in our workshops. And she's the one that identified the talent and said, you're so good with branding that, and I see how you build your brand, your father's brand and other people's brand. And then she said, now our Latina Vida brand. And I don't mean just in the social media presence, because I have that design. I went ahead and I rebranded the organization as well. Everything from website to business cards, you name it, social media presence. So she said, why don't you take the branding piece? So I speak about executive presence, and I speak about personal branding and corporate branding, the difference between one versus the other, but how important personal branding is, even if you are working for somebody else. Because, Deborah, even if you're working for another company, you don't stop being, right? You're still Deborah.
And you're always branding yourself in the corporate ladder. It's how your peers and how your subordinates see you.
Yes, but let me tell you, not all corporations embrace that personal branding thing. This is something that they're still, some of them are still struggling or understanding, embracing, wrapping their head around, because they always see you are an ambassador for a company. So whatever you do out there, you cannot remove, that brand from you. And now with social media and so many, there's positive and negative, but there's a lot of negative that gets put out in social media. And there's also a lot of misbehavior in the part of employees that they forget that they're representing a company. So those are the things I talk about, the pros and the cons. When I tailored it, to fit my style and what I believe is the data, the facts, and me interacting so much with millennials and Gen Xers. It's like, this is how they think, but also, we have an old generation of Latinos. They bring their thinking. So we have to come to a middle ground, and corporations have to make a change. They do have to realize that if you build your brand and you're out there, you're building their brand because you are an ambassador of that brand. Exactly. So, those are the things that, we go over. And I'm definitely very passionate to the point that now I am presenting a personal branding seminar at one of the business development centers. So that was like the next step, to finally get out of that comfort zone and say, okay, now that you kind of dominate this topic and someone else gave you also the opportunity and identify that for you, just take it to the next level. So that's...
And it also is using what you started out with in school, because interior design, part of branding is the visual and understanding color and how color is psychology. Because oftentimes people think, for the longest time, I'm like, wow, I'm not even using my education, because I got my undergrad in marketing and my master's in education. I'm like, wait a minute, I teach marketing. I'm like, that is a perfect use of my education, know? So it's so interesting the way life moves us right along to the path that we're supposed to be, if we just listen. You know what I mean? If we just listen to that inner guidance. So it really takes self-awareness to listen to that. So what marketing strategies do you use? Because, as a branding expert, so much of being a speaker is having the brand that represents you, because, as speakers, we're larger than life. We're able to hold a stage, but the brand needs to match that. I know there's different phases of my career where my brand was not matching my voice. How do you, or what marketing strategies do you use, or do you recommend for other speakers to get their brand to match?
Well, that's a process. That really, it is a process. Sometimes it can take years. Your brand can evolve. And then when you start looking at pictures, let's start with the hair. Hair is part of your brand. If we start looking at our own pictures from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s to now, we laugh. I have such a great time. My sister told me one day, she says, I have an album, just a folder on you of all your hairstyles.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've changed my hairstyle, the length, the color. So again, we evolve, and those things are very, they're a lot of fun. But when you go into the corporate space, let's say like a platform like LinkedIn, when talking about matching, you have to ensure that if you do go through those changes, the hair is the one that we change the most for women. We have to update those pictures.
Right.
It has to match for public speaking, for your speaker sheet. Sometimes you look at people and you're like, is that the same person? So that is part of your marketing strategy, is always keeping your profiles up to date, to keep your photos up to date, definitely putting yourself out there. And it's like, you don't get what you don't ask for. So when you're out there, you do have to articulate to people that you're looking for speaking opportunities, I do a lot of research. I read a lot. I love to read more articles than anything else. And that's how I find out, what's going on or who's doing well, or checking people's profiles. And in looking at that, I see opportunities. And again, I just think that people have to be proactive, Deborah. You know that, like right now, one of the things that I am collaborating with another lady, it's a speaker platform that she formed called Luminary Leaders, and she wanted to open a Latino division. I said, sure, I'll recommend, some people to you. There's a lot of Latina speakers and a lot of Latina experts. And she's like, well, why don't you become a part of it? So now we're looking at, a deeper collaboration, because it made sense. She goes, well, you are the face of Latina community. So she's like, I'm a blonde white woman, they're going to look at me like, why you, or why should I listen to you? So I'm excited about that, because when I started looking around at speakers bureaus specific for Latinos, where are they? Who's doing
gone.
Exactly.
There was one that I was in, or maybe a couple, and then it dissolved.
Yes, long time ago, one of our Latina leaders, Leonor McCall, had one, and I like, where are they? They moved out, or like Latinos were not that hot. Now we're hot. Okay, we're the hot thing out there. But I'll tell you what some of the challenges I faced when I was spearheading women's associations. It was that when I would get calls from Univision or Telemundo asking me for fluent Spanish speakers, I only had a handful.
Right.
I only had a handful. And fast forward 10 years, that hasn't changed much. So if anything, my advice today would be for Latinos, really become fully bilingual if you can, because those opportunities are there. And nowadays, you don't even have to wait for a network to call you to create your own content, or to go to pick up your show. You can create your own. And that's kind of what led me, from that opportunity that opened up in radio, which again, what was I doing there? I was there promoting an event for Latina Viva. And when I was being interviewed, the very next day, the owner called me, and like at 6 a.m, she sent me a message. She's like, have you ever thought of being on radio? I'm like, no. And it was one of those moments. It's like, okay, are you going to say no again, as I've done so many times, to public speaking, or you're going to take a chance? And she's like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Come and test it. So I did a couple of shows. It was fun. And I realized that I wasn't in front of an audience. I would be nervous. It was just me and the microphone and the sound engineer. And it was very fun. I liked it. And she's like, you have a lot of great info. You're an expert in business and career. And that's when they put together a segment. It was a 4-hour segment at first, and I was there. Those are the other things. That when you travel, it's not that glamorous like people think. You're in a radio show at 6 a.m., 6 to 10. That means that I was up at 4 a.m. And yes, and there was a lot of prepping behind it. There is prep work for any speaking or radio or TV presence. Is you have to do your research. I always like to interview my guests before the show, their bios, just kind of get a feel for their story, because I never liked anything scripted. Right. initially my show was based, because it was business, it was around a topic, but I still had experts, and I love sharing their stories. And then the next show, which was called, ironically, Believe in You, it was experts. It wasn't topic specific. And again, I love sharing their stories, but it's important for people to feel that you're listening. I think that was what I got from that you're listening, that you care about their story, that you want to convey that to the public, and that they're given the opportunity to share that so that they can also impact the listener.
So I want to stop just to get some points so that the people can really apply them. One of the things that you said was be thankful. So you're having that attitude of gratitude was giving you these opportunities. And the other thing that you said over and over is that you put yourself out there. And I recommend that even if you have the desire to be a speaker, to start attending events, even if you feel like you're not ready to get on a stage yet. It's from your going to the events that you met the luminary leader lady that led you to be in the speakers bureau. It's from your going to an event that you had the opportunity to be on the radio. We can't sit on Facebook all day and just type. And I know it's very tempting to sit on Facebook all day or YouTube or whatever is your platform and wait for speaking engagements to fall in our lap. I wish that was the case, but we really, and you know I do. And, you know, when I'm not busy, then I go out there. And when I am busy, I don't. But it's important to do those networkings, to go to events, to be visible. And when one of the things Cecilia said 3 times during this interview is there were so many times that she didn't feel that she was ready, but she said yes anyway. So I want you to have the courage to say yes to opportunities, because oftentimes people will see the talent in us, that it's so close to us. It's like we're living and breathing it. We may not see that in us. So thank you for those amazing nuggets. And is there any other lessons that you've learned being in the speaking industry? I know you've been around over 2 decades. What could you give people, new entrepreneurs, new speakers that are getting started in the business, or even seasoned ones, just from your life lessons?
Well, I mean, you did a pretty good job at summarizing those, but I definitely have to say, because I'm still weak in this area, and it's practice, practice, practice. Practice in your room, practice in front of the mirror. Now we have all this technology. You can actually get on your own, open a free Zoom account if you want to do that, and get in front of it and take a look at yourself, your body language, your expressions. The radio was such a great training for me, because I became much more aware of those things. And having learned a little bit about body language prior to that, it helped me a lot to be mindful of certain things. So I did have certain advantages, but it was because someone else also turned me onto that information. So seek mentors. Oh my God, I cannot even stress that enough. Don't be afraid to ask. There is no foolish question out there. And here's one thing, Deborah, that I learned that I finally stopped being so hard on myself, thinking that everybody was a natural born speaker, or that, oh my God, she's gifted. No, some people are, but you still have to polish yourself. And other individuals, after I kept harping them, I kept harping, because I'm like, no, I want to know more. So what else? Oh, I took acting lessons. Then the truth came out. Yes, the truth came out. Oh, I took acting lessons. Why? Because like me, they were introverts. They were introverts. So that was the one way for them to be able to practice on comedy. Comedy is a great tool, to loosen up a little bit in public speaking. But once I learned that at least 3 of my colleagues in my Latina network had done that, then I stopped beating myself about it.
Right. It's so true because you think, oh, well, everyone is just natural and they've got it together. I mean, so many of the speakers that I love, I'm like, they could literally be stand-up comedians. They're hilarious. And one of them became my mentor. Her name is Begina Echevarria. And she told me she did improv. Like she literally went to like a 12-week class to be, so that she can improve her keynote speaking by putting humor into it. So like any craft, speaking is something that takes practice. It takes cultivating. This is why I recently became a president of a Toastmasters club. I was involved in Toastmasters over 15 years ago, and that's where I first got asked to be a paid speaker at Toastmasters. But it's a place to practice your speeches, because it's not just enough to look at the Zoom video and see yourself. You need to see how people react when you tell a story and they give you these weird looks and you think,
Yes.
wow, that person really hates me, to turn out they're just processing the information. They're just thinking.
Yes.
It's always the people that I think that hate me, Cecilia, that are the ones that are like, oh, we love you, we learned so much. But I'm like, wow, I could never tell by the look of death you were giving me. And I just don't look at those people.
No, you're right. It's so challenging. You don't know. You try to read the room. I remember from this guy, the body language expert, that he knew how to read a room, and he would explain it to me, and he would also address that with people. He would just point them out, like, hey, I'm sorry that I'm boring you with my information, but I met another lady that used to do the same, and she would just ask people politely so that it doesn't disrupt the learning for others, to step out of the room. So there are certain things that you can do to keep control of the room. So definitely there's a lot of strategy and techniques to keep, command of your audience, the attention, the favor of your audience, so that but it's impossible to know exactly with whom, but you're going to have occasionally sassy speakers or sassy audience members. I've never had that, but I've seen it with others. One thing I have to say with you, I love your energy, and I have been following you for so long. I mean, I saw you I think the first time I saw you, Deborah, was when you were doing something with Macy's.
Oh, wow. That was so long ago. Really? Yes. I didn't think anybody I knew was there.
I was there. I was there. And that's, I think, the first time I saw you, other than when we did the vision board at your house. But I always loved, that energy. And I commend you for having really pursued, that passion, because I have to say that you're probably the top Latina that has remained in speaking, in public speaking, in all different facets, from corporate to public, to other spaces, maybe for 20 years?
Like 17 years, believe it or not. Wow.
Yeah, so close to 20 years. So it's just pursue it. And I don't know as much as you do, because this is like your baby, your niche, to tell people where to pursue speaking opportunities. I do look at information, and I know that there are event planners that you can reach out to, conventions that you can pitch yourself to. I do occasionally even run into some of my favorite conferences that I follow. They put out opportunities for speaking. So I think it's just kind of keeping an eye for also, where do you want to speak? Just kind of follow those opportunities, follow those organizations, and look out for a year before that next convention. More than likely, they're going to put out speaking opportunities.
It's so true. And what I have found is, once people decide, okay, I want to be a speaker, I'm ready to be a speaker, then you start seeing those opportunities all around. They were always there, but now you're focused on that. Whatever you focus on expands. So it's to know that it's really the step one is what you were saying in the beginning. Get clear on what is your expertise. You can't be the jack of all trades and the master of none. You have to pick that niche, or allow, like for both you and I, our niche picked us. Like, I didn't know. People would always ask me, like,
right.
do you sleep? How do you get so much done? And then I was like, oh, maybe peak performance is my niche. So when I speak at corporate, that's the topic that I speak on: peak performance, productivity, time expansion, energy efficiency, all of those kind of things. And now I'm really excited because I've built mindfulness into it, because I would not be able to do anything if I didn't have a practice of being still, because my brain is so fast and my body is always going, that I had to slow my brain down by being present. And it's, and this is where a lot of people can get the ideas for your speeches, for where to go, but you have to listen, because I call it divine downloads. We get this inspiration, but if we're not still enough to listen, to hear, and to take that inspired action, we are not going to be able to move forward. So speaking of moving forward, what is next for you, Cecilia, and how can people see you and interact with you?
Well, I want to share a little quick story before that, because you reminded me the first time I did Mistress of Ceremonies. That was last year, and that was a lot of prepping. And I accepted the job because I wanted to support this friend. And that's when you start learning what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, and what you're not. So again, it was to support someone, and I said, forget it. And even when a friend that was visiting from the Dominican Republic said, hey, people get paid a lot of money for that, and you're doing it for free. And once I did it, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. That was too much responsibility. So that one, like, check that off my list. I don't want to do that one. Then I was approached by, again, another friend for an opportunity to open up an event for a major Latino network. And I said, no, that's not what I want to do. I was so clear at that moment. And then that was a paid gig. And I said, that's not enough. I said, for that kind of responsibility, I said, that's not enough.
Good.
Yes, I turned it down, and I'm like, darn, that felt so good. But I was able to pass it on to someone else. I referred like 7 different people, men and women. And I said, you can pick from there. I said, but that's not where I'm at. I have my eyes on something else. And it was again, because you put yourself out there. And once you put yourself out there and you build your brand presence, then opportunities do start coming to you. So fast forward, I stepped down from doing radio to go into the production end, which I love because I was producing my own show anyways. Now I am producing the radio and podcast for my father and the Mota legacy. So that's where I'm at. And I'm also helping another friend, actress, bring her podcast to life, and other opportunities are coming as I, again, tell the universe, this is what I want to be doing. So I always love the behind the scenes, because I did event production for so long in the nonprofit space that's where I feel comfortable. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get back in front of the mic. Maybe I will with my own father, which that should be interesting. 2 different generations, 2 different sets of thinking.
Right.
We'll see how that goes, but it will be my father as co-host and one of my siblings rotating every week. And that's going to be so much fun sharing, the Mota legacy and baseball knowledge that they all collectively have. 5 Mota brothers will be part of it. Yes.
Wow. That is super cool.
Yes. So that's what's coming up very soon.
Fantastic. And is there a website or social media that I can put in the notes, or that you want to let people know to follow you on?
My website is very simple. It's my name is CeciliaMota.com. All of my social media is under Cecilia Mota. I have a fan page. I also have my Women in Media Talks. That was another project that I launched, and that's in the works, that I turned more like into a production company instead. And everything will spin off of that production company. I continue to do my nonprofit work. I think that there are women, we have the ability to do many things, and you just have to learn how to manage and juggle, your time. I am a single parent, and my children now, thank God, they're grown. My youngest is 15, so I don't have to worry so much. That was a stressor, Deborah, going to networking events when they were younger and not being able to feel comfortable, because they will be calling me all the time, Mom, what time are you coming home? So now I am doing more because I can. So this is like the time to just grab all those opportunities and to really really like explode, because there were circumstances in my life that held me back. And I would also criticize myself, that internal critic that we have saying like, oh my God, you're a late bloomer, until someone, said, late according to whom?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's always in the right and perfect divine time. So not to think that, yeah, exactly. I love that. And, any way that I can support you, and then anybody listening, if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I will put all of her information into the show notes so that you can stay in contact with Cecilia Mota. You can find out all about her dad and his legacy and all the things that she's doing. I want to thank you for all of the wonderful lessons that we've learned. I took rigorous notes. I have all of these things that I learned from Cecilia, and I'm sure if you apply them, you will learn. And that's what I want to remind you. These podcasts aren't just to listen to and to hear. They're really to inspire you to take action. If you feel a calling to be a messenger for the message, you are never going to feel totally ready. Your ducks are never going to be completely in a row, but we are here to support you. So take action from all of the lessons that she gave you, and you will see yourself transforming the world, because that's what it's about. What if everyone in the world was living their life purpose? We would not be a fear-based society. We would be an empowered-based society, and that's what my intention is. So thank you so much, Cecilia. Really appreciate you. And thank you all for tuning in, reminding you that this podcast is being sponsored by the Ignite Your Speaking program. If you are ready to take your speaking to the next level, but you want support, you can register for that at igniteyourspeaking.com. And remember, with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao. Remember, you are the messenger for the message. And with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Thanks for listening. If you would like to receive a free ebook on how to speak with confidence, you can get it at deborahderas.com/speaknow. You can also listen to previous episodes of our podcast at deborahderas.com/podcast. And remember to subscribe and write a review on our channel. We want to hear from you and what you would like to hear more of.